Christus factus est pro nobis.
This Sunday, we revisit the story of Martha and Mary, kind of one of our classics, right? And we know the tension of the story, right? That Jesus comes to visit Lazarus and Mary and her sister Martha, and during the visit there develops this awkward tension, kind of specifically between Martha, who's doing all the work, who's preparing, who's cooking, who's setting the table, who's attending to everybody's needs, who is tired and probably sweaty, and to Mary, who has decided that it's her job to sit at Jesus' feet and listen to him and kind of share in this dialogue with the Lord. And as is pretty common among these kinds of tensions and disputes, they go to Jesus to solve it. And Martha says, Jesus, you have to tell my sister to help me. But as happens every time, Jesus moves the question from the one that is kind of in the air, the tension that's in the air, and answers a different question. That the problem so often with our approach to God isn't the answers, it's the questions. And so Jesus reframes the question to help them look for a better answer. Now, this tension between them has been classically used to help us consider the to consider the tension that lives between contemplative life and an apostolic life, between those who would be called to pray and contemplate and sit in adoration, and those who would be called to teach and work and share their lives with the poor and live out an apostolic mission of some sort. Like those two tensions, whether they be different religious orders, communities like the Carmelites who dedicate themselves, or the Poor Clares who dedicate themselves to prayer, or communities of teaching sisters that go out and work. Like there's those tensions, but also I think classically this has been used to help us consider in our own lives the tension between a spiritual contemplation and action, that both of which exist and almost always kind of directed towards a call back into a more contemplative, more reflective place in life, a call for a healthier spirituality, respecting these tensions but focusing on sitting at the feet of Jesus, right? So I think that backdrop isn't unusual to you, but I'm going to call foul on it. That's not to say it's not true, and it's not to say it's not helpful, but I think most of what I just said was imposed on the story in the centuries, in the millennium, after it was written. And it wasn't what Jesus was trying to teach first. Useful, but if we skip to there, we might miss the focus of what I believe Jesus was probably trying to say. So when Jesus says, only one thing is important, like all of our brakes should screech on, right? If we've been listening at all to the Gospels, to all of Jesus' teachings, if he's talking about one thing being important, he is talking about the mission. He's talking about love. He's talking about the Father's love and our sharing in that love and our living that love in a way is to give it to our brothers and sisters, especially to those who are in the margins of society. Like that is like the consistent mission that only matters in Jesus' teaching and life. And so if Jesus says only one thing matters, and Mary found it, and I'm not going to take it away from her because you aren't there right now, Martha. Right? That's what he says. And it makes me ask the question, so what does love look like? Because it seems like love could very easily look like service and setting the tables and making sure that everybody's wine glass is full and like opening up in hospitality your home and making everybody comfortable and sweating a little bit in the process. Like that's my favorite kind of love, right? If I can do something that is helpful, that is useful, that means something in the life of my friends, of the people that I spend time with, I feel like I've loved them in a way that like, makes sense to me. But love also can look like Mary, who because she loves Jesus, like wants to hear what he has to say, wants to hear every word, wants to absorb it, wants to make sense of it, who actually listens, and whose listening isn't just some sort of passive laziness. It's the beginning of contemplation that will lead to love, to action, to an outpouring of loving action, to the words later that will be a blessing, that will make sense, that won't be as harsh or as rash as Martha's words. There's something in her actions also that look like love. And maybe my question is imprecise, is inadequate, that it's maybe not right to ask what does love look like or what looks like love. Because really the question is what is love? Because the fact is, sitting at Jesus' feet might look like love, but it could easily be love or not be love. And running around the house, fixing everything, doing all the work, can easily look like love, but it might be love or it might not be love. And it's so easy for us to get caught up in ourselves, and it's so easy for us to get caught up in jealousies, and it's so easy to get caught up in duty. And sometimes I fear that nothing kills love more than a sense of duty completed. We can do our duty in love, but we can also do our duty without love. And there's a huge difference. Maybe the person that we should love, our mother or our spouse, will be taken care of, right? Maybe all of the other siblings have failed in their responsibilities and I did my job, and resent them for it. Not unlike Martha. But there's a big difference between that and love. I've sometimes suggested, and maybe I'm wrong, but I've sometimes suggested to people who are overwhelmed and resentful that they should figure out what they can do it with love, and do that with love, and not do anything else. Like, there's got to be some other solution for healthcare for an aging parent. There's got to be some other solution for this problem. What can you do with love? Because that's all that has value. And what we do without love doesn't have value. What Martha did had the potential for so much love and so much value. And it's not because she was active as opposed to passive, or contemplative as opposed to apostolic. Her actions could have been actions of great love. And Mary's actions, sitting quietly listening, didn't have to be actions of great love, but they were. And for us to identify in our lives and the complexities, and especially in the areas where we are tempted to be resentful, where we take our pride and joy in the resentment that we have because we're doing something that nobody else will do, just to unpack that and figure out what we can do with love. Because love is the better part. Because love is the only thing that matters. And that if we choose that better part and allow our work, our setting the table, our sitting at the feet of Jesus, to allow our actions, our marriage, our siblings, our responsibilities to children who need their diapers changed, or to parents who need the same. Like, if we were to be able to do what we do with love, if love gave value to our actions, with Mary, Jesus would be able to say no. Like, he picked the better part, and we're not taking that away from him. And for us not to be satisfied with the tensions, not to be satisfied with what love looks like, or what looks like love, but rather in our own lives to seek to act, not just doing the things around us that need to be done, but to act with love, and for that love to transform not only our actions, but our